Have you ever asked the question, why is it that businesses can get so much done in so little time versus governments? Well, it has to do with business systems. This is part 3 of the Personal MBA Tactical Review. I'm your host, Jason Catalano, call sign Wildcat, and this part 3 is all about understanding business systems. Okay, so chapter 10 has everything to do with understanding systems, and understanding systems has everything to do with understanding input, process, output. It's pretty much what every system is. That's the most simple, basic point. And he talks about in this chapter how Gall's law talks about how every system that you can imagine out there started off as like simple as it can be. 1 + 1 = 2. But over time, these systems evolve because we need them to do more, right? So a lot of times, if you only have 10 customers, you don't really need a system to be all that robust. But as soon as you start scaling, you need to know where they're from, you need to know their psychographics, maybe you need to know what their average order value is. And so you start saying, wow, we just don't have the data for that. And you need to start adding, okay? But everything starts off as simple as possible. So when you're thinking about your own business or guerrilla marketing, your own systems as you're implementing them, go as simple as possible, execute, and then he talks about the feedback loop, okay? And the feedback loop in terms of understanding your systems is, what is it in your systems? What are they kicking back to you to tell you if they are good, bad, indifferent, where the problems are, where the opportunities are? Do you have feedback systems, right? And businesses do a really, really good job, the best ones do, of always understanding this, right? The end goal is going to be to optimize certain key performance indicators or certain things in the business. But if you don't get feedback, how are you going to know what to optimize? You're not. The other part in this chapter that I really like is that he talks about second order effects and that we don't control the consequences of those effects, right? All we can do is take action and then see the consequence, right? So a lot of times as guerrilla marketers, we'll set up a marketing campaign. It'll execute, will happen, right? We act, and then something might happen, and it could be good, it could be bad. We don't really control that consequence, right? We can get the feedback loop, we can understand and analyze, which is the next chapter, what went right, what went wrong. So chapter 11 has to do with analyzing systems, and the best way that he talks about it is you want to deconstruct all those systems as far simple or as far down as you can, to then also be able to measure at the small, minute level for each one. But then after that, you'll have to understand what are the real key performance indicators. And the best thing from this chapter that I took, I mean, I get it, systems, how do you analyze them? You gotta break them down to smaller components. I get it. You need to be able to measure, right? What gets measured gets managed. Peter Drucker, that book right there, yeah, Peter Drucker talks about that. But I like to think about key performance indicators. Like, what are the real indicators of your business that are going to drive success? And you have to be able to say, how do we get to those indicators? How do I understand that? And how do we drive it? Okay, there's going to be a lot of data thrown at you, especially, as an accountant myself, like, that's all I see all day is data. Who cares? What does that data flow to that tells you, okay, SaaS revenue, key indicator, maybe we want to know R&D expenditures, right? That's a key indicator. Maybe you want to see how many customer acquisition costs, maybe that's a big one. Whatever you decide it is, you need to make that a key performance indicator and be on the ball with it. Next, he talks about context. And context is really important because if you look at data just individually, it doesn't tell the full story, right? Accounting's a great example of this, where sometimes, you have a sales write-off 1 month and it's like, it completely throws off that one individual number. But if you look at the total whole, it's actually pretty common, where your numbers actually look really good, but in the one individual month, it might look really bad. So you always want to be able to understand that everything in a system has context, right? Something is an outflow from one system, it becomes an inflow for another system. So you want to always understand what is the context of what the data is telling. Okay, lastly, he talks about improving business systems. And he talks about, especially in the military, one of the biggest things he talks about is optimization. Okay, one thing I will tell you in the military was that we never optimized. It was be everything to all people because that's the mission set. Be ready for any fight at any time. And the reality is the reason why businesses are so good is because they don't. They optimize for one problem at a time. So for instance, if you're a business with timepieces, with watches, you want to think like, how can I optimize our business, right? To sell watches at the highest price possible, right? How do we do that? Well, you probably have to build brand awareness. You probably have to get some sort of association, right? Somebody that people know, love, trust, that is congruent with your image. But everything has to go back to, what is that thing that you're gonna optimize, right? What is it that you wanna optimize? Sales, you wanna optimize net margin? Two different things, right? Sales, keep throwing money. Let's start raising the amount of customers we're getting, right? The other thing he talks about is the critical few. So in any system, whether it's your AP system, whether it's how are you managing leads, how are you doing social media, there are gonna be just a few critical components that are probably gonna drive most of your results, right? Maybe it's something like your social media strategy. Could be something as simple as you're just not posting enough, or the content itself is not viral, engaging enough, or it's, the videos just don't provide enough value. Like, you have to understand what is those critical components that's going to drive you. It's only a few too as well. There might be thousands of things you have to do a day, but there's only a few that really matter. And finally, with this part of the book, for me, the biggest other takeaway was standard operating procedures, just in terms of like how you actually do your process flows, especially once you start gaining a team or you have to start managing a team. You want to understand what is standard, right? Especially the bigger and more complex the operation is, you want to understand like, how are we going to normalize this, right? Because we don't want to have to be thinking about this over and over and over again. A good example of this is like a month-end close. There might be 9 steps you do, and it should be some sort of procedure you have that anybody can pick this up and look at and go, okay, I do this, then this, then this, and this. And at the basic, I get this end result of whatever it is. So in this case, it'd be a month-end close. We can actually finish the books and keep moving on. But you always want to think, what can you make that standardized to a point that you can start delegating it and things like that. So for me, Personal MBA Part 3, I took a little bit out of it. Honestly, if you go to college or anything like that, you'll probably research a lot on it as well. It's a little more on the engineering side, and it's interesting. Just from a business perspective, business isn't engineering. Business has more to do with people and solving their problems, right? And this is a way that we have to be in systems everywhere. And so you have to understand like what makes a good system from a bad system. So with that, it's part 3 of the Personal MBA. I'm Jason Catalano, call sign Wildcat, signing off.